This is a to-the-point video. It is a condensed version of the full review. I will not answer questions in the comment section for this video. Please watch the full review if you want detailed information, and that video will be linked in the description section below. Sivga sent me their planar magnetic headphone, the P2. This is a $400 product. The P2 is built quite well. There is a healthy amount of metal and wood in the construction. The ear cups are carved wood, connected via metal yokes. The ear cups swivel 90 degrees in either direction. The ear pads are soft, but not made of memory foam. They sit fully around my ears. The headband padding has small padded sections. These feel like memory foam, but I could be wrong. The P2 comes in a very sturdy yet large case. The headphones are equipped with a nice cable that terminates in a 4.4mm balanced jack. Sivga includes a 4.4mm to 3.5mm adapter. However, Sivga does not include a 4.4mm to quarter-inch adapter. Overall, the build, fit, and accessories are rather good. The P2 looks eerily similar to the more expensive Sennheiser Ava, but is a little bit more comfortable to wear due to the padded headband. The cable and case are some of the best I've seen around this price range. In fact, I would say that they are comparable to the accessories found with the Ava. The P2 has a balanced sound signature. As with all planar magnetic headphones, the P2 has a sub-bass roll-off. You can hear sub-bass rumble, but it sounds distant, recessed, and rather quick. This is no substitute for the type of bass response you get with dynamic drivers. However, the P2 has close to neutral mid-bass. Drums never sound visceral or sharp. The bass is generally clear without muddiness. The mids are forward and clear. Vocals are about 2 steps ahead of instruments. Female sibilance is accentuated. It is a bit more than what I hear on the more neutral Olo Audio S4X, but quite a bit less than the sibilance heard on the HD 560S. The P2 tends to provide correct timbre for all instruments. Treble is fairly neutral. Treble instruments are clear and have about as much energy as they do on the neutral Aventone planar. Treble is never harsh or piercing even at higher volumes. The P2 has above-average detail retrieval and soundstage. It sits alongside the hifi Sundara and Aventone planar in these regards. A lot of people wonder if the P2 sounds like the Ava. The short answer is no, not quite. The Ava has a more noticeable bass roll-off. The Ava also has greater sibilance and a bit more treble energy. The Ava provides a little bit more clarity and separation among instruments and vocals. Soundstage and detail retrieval is fairly comparable, however. I also compared the P2 against the hifi Sundara and audeze LCD2 Classic. The Sundara is a more neutral headphone. The Sundara presents more bass clarity, but the P2 has more mid-bass impact. The mids are close to neutral on the Sundara, but the P2 renders vocals more intimately, and they sound more full than they do on the Sundara. The treble is similar in these headphones. The LCD2 Classic has a slightly more neutral bass response than the P2. In other words, the Classic has marginally greater sub-bass emphasis than the P2. However, the P2 has greater mid-bass impact and more clarity between sub-bass and mid-bass. The Classic adds more sibilance to vocals, but instruments sounded the same on both headphones. Treble is a little accentuated on the Classic, while the P2 appears to be closer to neutral. The P2 overall provides a bit more clarity and separation of instruments. Overall, the P2 is not a Sennheiser Ava in a slightly altered look. The two headphones may share construction or components, but the sound is different enough to notice. That is not to say, however, that the P2 and Ava sound dramatically different. They don't. Compared to the Sundara and the LCD2 Classic, the P2 is more obviously different. For $400, the P2 provides excellent build, good accessories, and a sound signature that is different from the competition. If you were tempted to buy the Ava but could not justify its cost, then the P2 is similar enough to consider as an alternative. You will not hear jaw-dropping performance, but if you have never heard a planar magnetic headphone and if you want a warmer sound signature than what the Sundara creates, then the P2 might be worth a closer look. I think $400 is a fair price, but at the limit. The Monolith M570, which is basically an Ava clone, is $300. The 570 has its own issues, but it is the most direct competition to both the Ava and the P2. In light of the 570's price, I think a more reasonable cost for the P2 would be $350. Nonetheless, the P2 is a headphone that may be pleasing to you. You have plenty of options to choose from, and the P2 I think is worth a close examination.